Morning, everybody.
Morning.
How are you?
Oh, very good.
Good. How's things treating you, Carl?
Very good. Be
Yeah.
glad when this Zoom thing is over.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
In some ways, it makes things a little easier too, though. You know, it's there's silver linings if you look for
Oh, yes, there is.
them.
Yeah, it's
Mr. Chair, you now have a quorum of members.
Okay. Thanks very much. Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Township YouTube channel. We'll be holding the meeting as if we're in the council chambers, and we'll follow all the regular policies on the procedural bylaw. Please raise your hand in front of the camera if you would like to speak on a matter, and I'll call on you, and I'll try to not miss anyone. When I call for a vote, I'll call for all those in favor, followed by all those opposed, and you'll physically raise your hand to vote in the matter you wish to vote. I'd like to call the roll now. Please raise your hand and state your presence when I call your name. Member Wendy Dunford.
Present.
Thank you. Ken Jackman. Thank you, Ken. Jim Patterson, I don't see Jim. I wonder if Martina, if somebody could maybe call Jim just in case. If Vanessa or Nicole could give him a call.
Nicole, would you be able to do that?
I can definitely do that.
Thank you.
And, Ed Reed. Ed is here.
Morning.
Welcome, Ed. Okay, we have staff members here as the clerk, temporary CAO, Martina, and along with Nicole Zinner and Vanessa Sweeting will be helping us with the administration and some of the technical part of the business. So throughout the meeting, and the applicants and their agents will join us, will be called on to speak as required for comments and so on. So with that in mind, we'd like to get going. With the members of the committee, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing no nods, we'd like approval of the minutes from January the 29th. If somebody would like to approve those, please. Wendy, seconded by Ed. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried. Okay, number 4, we have minor variance, A0121. Applicant is Fraser Sutherland. And Scott, I believe you're the agent with this?
Yes.
Okay, is there, are there other members here as well with you?
Yeah. Kevin Grubb is a project developer with us, and Jenna, the designer of the job. So.
Okay, good. She's on the 875-8798 number?
No, you should be able to see her there. Jenna Ford, Korth Lakes Construction.
Sure.
There
Sorry.
she is.
Okay. Okay, Martina, can you take us through this application, please?
Absolutely. So this application is for Fraser Sutherland. The agent, as you know, is Korth Lakes Construction. The property is,
There is some background noise here. I guess we should mute if we're not speaking.
The property description is concession 7, lot 34, block B. It's located at 1020 Stony Lake, Island 35 in the Dummer Ward. The roll number is 020-005-7410. The property owner would like to construct a screened porch addition to join the existing bunkie into the existing cottage with an open deck along the north side of the dwelling. To permit the addition and the deck, variances are required to acknowledge the existing dwelling as a non-conforming structure, a lateral expansion to increase the dwelling size from 25%, 31 feet, to 57%, 61 feet, a variance of 32%, and a decrease in the existing water yard setback, a decrease in the water yard setback from 30 meters, 98.4 feet, to 13.5 meters, 44.3 feet, a variance of 16.5 meters. We have received comments in this application. Curve Lake First Nation states, so long as there is no ground disturbing activities, there is no archaeological concern. Pure construction and filling activities where dirt is being brought in from other areas and not being scraped from the site are not concerns for us at this current juncture. I do not want to state it will never be a concern. However, our current primary goal is protection of the sites. If the ground is not being disturbed, the potential site is not either. We have also received comments from Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. The letter is quite long, so I'm just going to read the highlights for you. They state, it is the opinion of the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority that the application is consistent with Section 3.1 relating to natural hazards of the provincial policy statement. They also state, providing that a suitable planting plan is submitted, it is the opinion of the authority that the application is consistent with Section 2.1 referring to natural heritage and 2.2 referring to water of the provincial policy statement, and conforms to Section 4.2.4, 5B and C of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. And lastly, they say that permits will be required from the agency when building is will commence. So those are all of the comments we received. We did not receive any public comments. The property is zoned island residential zone, and residential uses are permitted within this zone. In this case, the applicant is seeking relief from Section 8.2.1 regarding the minimum water yard, and Section 3.28.1C shall not exceed 25% of the lateral dimension expansion of a building or structure. The applicants state that the reason for the application is as follows: to acknowledge the legal non-conforming single dwelling unit and to allow for an addition to join the existing cottage and bunkie. The application is consistent with the official plan, as the plan allows for infilling and minor expansion to existing buildings so long as the use does not change and there's no further encroachment on the water yard or any other setback. The notice was circulated to the management team and no comments were received. There were photos attached to the report as requested by the committee at a previous meeting. We've already talked about the conformity, that it's in conformity with the provincial policy statement. The committee will need to decide if this application meets or does not meet the 4 tests. It is or is not minor in nature. It is or is not desirable and appropriate to the development of the land. It meets or does not meet the general intent of the official plan. And it meets or does not meet the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The committee will also need to pass a resolution regarding the impact, if any, of the comments that were received. And we can make that resolution after you consider the application. If the application is approved, the following conditions are recommended: that the variance would be for the life of the structure only, that the applicant would obtain any necessary permits from ORCA, Douro-Dummer Building Department, Trent Severn Waterways, or any other required ministry or agency, that proper building plans be submitted with the building permit application based on the design included on the site plan prepared by JB Flugel Surveyors dated January 20th, 2021, that verification from an Ontario land surveyor be provided to the chief building official after the structure is framed to confirm that all applicable setback requirements have been met, and that if any archaeological artifacts are found during construction, that all development shall be halted immediately and the proper agencies be contacted.
Thank you, Martina. Scott, do you have any comments, or any member of your team? You're muted, Scott.
Sorry about that. No additional comments, but happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Okay, members of the committee, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, is there a member of the council of the committee prepared to put forward a motion? Ken, go ahead, please.
Am I unmuted here?
Yep, you're unmuted.
Okay, yeah, I would make a motion to approve the application with the noted conditions and taking into consideration the correspondence from Curve Lake First Nations and ORCA.
And the four items, the 4 tests.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Ed? Okay, any questions, comments? All those in favor? And those opposed? Seeing none, carried. So the second motion would be a resolution regarding the information received.
I do have a sample resolution if you'd like me to read it.
Sure.
The committee has not received any written or oral submissions from the public regarding minor variance application A0121, and thus have made its decision on the basis of the application, submissions from Curve Lake First Nation, Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, and the staff report.
Okay, and somebody, okay, Wendy will move that. Seconded by Ken. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Okay, thank you very much. Scott, I'm sure you're familiar with the appeal process, the 20-day appeal process. So good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
So our second item on today's meeting is Dabrowski and Scotchmeyer. It looks like, Scott, you're representing that application as well.
Correct.
Martina, would you take us through the highlights of that application, please?
Absolutely. So this is another island project. It's located at 532 Stony Lake, Island 21 in the Dummer Ward. The roll number is 020-004-3500. The property owners would like to construct a small addition to the existing dwelling to allow for another entrance. To permit the addition, variances are required to decrease the water yard setback from 30 meters, which is 98.4 feet, to 19 meters, 62.3 feet, a variance of 11 meters. An increase of the lot coverage from 5% to 6.1%, a variance of 1.1%, and a decrease of the septic setback from 30 meters to 16.6 meters, 54.5 feet, a variance of 13.4 meters. We have received comments from Curve Lake First Nations. They are the same as the previous application, that they have no concerns, that if there's no ground disturbance activities, there is no archaeological concern. We've also received comments from the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. They state that it is the opinion of the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority that the application is consistent with Section 3.1 related to natural heritage of the Provincial Policy Statement. Further, that a suitable planting plan, provided a suitable planting plan is submitted, it is the opinion of the authority that the application is consistent with Section 2.1 relating to natural heritage features, 2.2 relating to water of the Provincial Policy Statement, and it will conform to Section 4.2.4, 5B, and C of the Growth Plan. The staff are available to discuss those requirements. And further, that permits from the agency will be required to receive a building permit. The subject property is also zoned island residential, and residential uses are permitted in this zone. In this case, the applicant is seeking relief from the minimum water yard, the maximum lot coverage, and the location of sewage system leaching beds. The applicant states that the reason for the application is as follows: to add a small addition on the existing cottage to allow for an additional entrance. The application is consistent with the official plan, as the plan allows for infilling and minor expansion to existing buildings so long as the use does not change and there's no further encroachment. The notice was circulated to the management team and no comments were received. And again, photos were attached to this application as per the committee's recommendation at a previous meeting. The application conforms to the provincial policy statement. The property is affected by the floodplain of Stony Lake, but both the existing structure and the proposed structure will be built on piers that raise the structures above the flood levels. The committee will need to decide if the application meets or does not meet the 4 tests. It is or is not minor in nature. It is or is not desirable and appropriate to the development of the land. It meets or does not meet the general intent of the official plan. And it meets or does not meet the general intent of the zoning bylaw. Again, the committee will need to decide if the request is considered minor. That it for test, and then you'll also need to pass a resolution regarding the impact of any, if any, of the comments that were received. If this application is approved, the following conditions are recommended. The variance would be for the life of the structure only. The applicant would obtain any necessary permits from ORCA, the Douro-Dummer Building Department, Trent Severn Waterways, and any other required ministry or agency. That proper building plans be submitted with the building permit application based on the site plan by J.B. Flugel, dated February 2nd, 2021. That verification from an Ontario land surveyor be provided to the township's chief building official after the structure has been framed to confirm all applicable setback requirements have been met, and that if any archaeological artifacts are found during construction, that all development shall be halted immediately and the proper agencies be contacted.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you, Martina.
You're
And
welcome.
Jim Patterson has joined the meeting. Make a note of that on the minutes, please. Scott, have you got any comments regarding this application before questions?
Nope, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions regarding the application or any comments? Okay, seeing none, is a committee member willing to move the approval? Ed moves it. Can you, the four tests?
Yes,
Okay, the four tests.
yes, yeah, I would move approval of the application with the conditions as stated in consideration of the four tests.
Okay, thank you. And seconder is Ken. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Okay, those opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. This is 20-day appeal process as well. So this ends our application part of the meeting.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. We just need to pass a resolution regarding the impact of the comments received.
You're right. The application, I guess it could be the same as our previous resolution.
That is what I'm suggesting to you.
Okay. Would you like to move that too, Ed? No, pardon me. Wendy, you had your name up. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Well, I'm going to say so moved.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I missed.
I'll second it.
Okay, Jim will second it. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. That completes the application part of the meeting. Thank you very much, Scott, and your team for attending. And good luck with the project.
Thank you very much to everybody.
Okay.
Take care. Bye
Thank
now.
you. Our next correspondence, our next item on the meeting is correspondence, Association of Municipality of Ontario Land Use Training Opportunities. Martina, would you like to talk to about that in more detail? I think we've participated in that training from time to time in the past.
Absolutely. So this is a training opportunity that's provided to councillors and committee members. It's provided by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I believe myself, Ken, and Jim participated in one of these trainings during the earlier term of the committee, but I don't believe yourself, Wendy, or Ed has had the opportunity. And it's always great to get a refresher as well. So it's offered digitally now instead of in person, and there's a few different dates available. So if any of the committee members would like to attend this type of training, please let me know and I can register you. We're always looking for opportunities for training, especially when we can't get together as much as we would like to.
Okay. So you can let Martina know now, or you can let her know by email or phone later if you'd like to participate.
That's right. And the first date is March 25th. So if I could know in the next week or two, that would be perfect.
Okay. What's the, I don't have the correspondence in front of me, but what's the length of time?
3 hours, I think.
Yeah, it's a 3-hour training session and it's available on 3 different days.
Okay, good.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, I think that completes the business. Our next meeting is March the 26th at 9 o'clock. Wendy?
I just have a quick question about the income tax slips. I haven't received mine in the mail yet. I was just wondering if they're about ready to be mailed out, or last year we got them pretty late. I think my return was already completed last year, so,
They're supposed to be released late this afternoon. So
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I
Okay,
do.
well,
I do, Carl.
go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, the last couple meetings, I'm having trouble getting on the Zoom connections. Anybody else having trouble? Like, I was a couple minutes after 9 before I could even get in, or are we not letting us in early or what? But I have not had an easy time getting into this thing.
through you, Mr. Chair, if you would like to be let into the meetings earlier, we can change our process. But you will have to be muted and have your screens off during that time. So if that's okay, I can work on a new process to allow you to join the meeting earlier, and then I can send that out to you as well.
Okay. Jim?
Mr. Chair, my apologies for being late. I too was mixed up in Zoom jail. And I needed the help of your good staff to let me in, and
Okay.
I won't make that mistake again.
No problem. We'll forgive you. Okay, I guess a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Okay, Jim and Wendy, any comments or further? All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. So I guess we meet again in about 6 minutes, 5 minutes. I guess we can just leave our connection up and turn off the video and mute ourselves. Is that okay, Martina?
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll be back at 9:30 for our planning meeting.
I'm going to be a couple of minutes getting on the call. There we go. Ready to go?
Mr. Chair, would you be able to ask that all participants mute their devices for now?
Sure. Would everyone please mute their devices until we get going here, please?
Good. And we have a quorum of members, so you're able to start the meeting whenever you're ready.
Sure. Because we have different members on the call now than we did at our committee of adjustment, I will have to go through the spiel again here. Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Township YouTube channel. We'll be holding a meeting as if we're in the council chambers, and we'll follow all the regular procedures of the procedural bylaw. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak on a matter, and I'll call on you. I'll try to not miss anyone. When I call on the vote, I will call for all those in favor and all those opposed. And you'll physically raise your hand in order to vote in the matter you wish to vote on. So members present are Wendy Dunford, Ken Jackman, Jim Patterson, and Ed Reed. So, and also we have Terry CAO Martina will be coordinating the meeting. And we have Nicole Zinner and Vanessa Sweeting giving us some technical support. So welcome others. Don't see faces, but we'll be calling on you for comments as we get to your application. So I think we're ready to go. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest with any of the matters on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, approval of the minutes of December 18th, please. Jim, and who would like to second that motion? Ed is second that motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Okay, first item is B5820. It's application for severance, creation of a new residential lot. And the application name is Graham Lloyd. I see Graham is on the line. So Martina, would you take us through the highlights of the application, please, for the committee? And then we'll
Absolutely.
give a chance for Mr. Lloyd and others to comment.
Perfect. So as you stated, this is a severance application for Graham Lloyd. The lot is located at Lot 16, Concession 9, 1400 Rousseau Lane in the Dummer Ward. The roll number is 020-002-14005. It's to create one residential lot. The official plan designation on both the severed and retained lot is rural. Residential uses are permitted in the rural designation, provided that fragmentation of farmlands in conflict with adjacent farm operations are not created. A maximum of 2 consents to create new lots may be permitted from a property within this designation, as it existed 25 years prior to the date of the application, and there has been no previous severances on this lot. The zoning of both the severed and the retained lot is rural, and rezonings are not required. The severed and retained lot will meet the area and frontage requirements of the residential use in the rural zone, section 9.2.4. The proposed lot is located within 120 meters of key natural heritage features and hydrological features, including an unevaluated wetland. An environmental impact study completed by Cambium dated July 2020 was submitted with the application and reviewed by the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. There was a letter attached in your package dated November 6th regarding that review. A safe entrance is possible and a culvert will be required. Staff are also requesting a 3-meter strip of frontage be deeded to the township, and a copy of that report is also attached. There's a copy of a report from the chief building official in your package as well. A copy of the county's preliminary severance review was part of the package. Discussion with the County of Peterborough Planning staff and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority have resolved most of the issues with the application. Following ORCA's review of this application, it does not appear that the proposed lot will be located within a floodplain, and that the environmental impact study prepared by Cambium shows that the proposed lot will be set back at least 30 meters from the key hydrological features, and therefore the application appears to be in conformity with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan if all of the recommendations contained in the summary of the study are followed. Following ORCA's review of this application, it's been determined that the lot will not be located within a floodplain. Test holes for septic systems have already been completed and the results were satisfactory. Should the committee approve this application, they should recommend to council that the severance application B5820 be approved, and if approved by the Peterborough Land Division Committee, that the following conditions be imposed. A $1,250 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the municipality, that a 3-meter strip of frontage from the severed lot be deeded to the township, that a safe entrance be approved by the manager of public works, and that a mitigation measures agreement be entered into between the owner and the municipality and registered on title at the owner's expense, which would recognize the recommendations included on the summary of recommendations of the environmental impact study prepared by Cambium Inc., dated July 31st, 2020. Oh, Mr. Chair, you're muted right now.
Sorry, thank you, Martina. Just before we go further, there's 2 people on the call with phone numbers only. If I could get some identification of those individuals. One is 875-8798. If you could just provide your name, please. And you're muted.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, all right. Yeah, Graham Lloyd, the owner of the property.
Okay, Graham Lloyd. It looks like you're on twice here. Okay.
Oh, am I? I'm on my lucky day.
There's a that's okay. Now there's
well,
one
I'm looking at you on my computer and I'm talking to you on my phone, so maybe that's why I'm on here twice.
You're on here twice. And there's another
Okay.
number on here, 933-9992. If you could identify who you are, you'll have to unmute first, please. Are you able to hear me? There you go.
Hello there, it's Marwood Payne.
Marwood. Okay, thank you, Marwood. Welcome. We'll be getting to your application soon. Okay, Mr. Lloyd, have you any comments before we open it up for questions to the committee?
Just listening to what Martina had to say, I guess that's just standard future requirements, is it? Nothing special?
The conditions being requested are quite similar to what is entailed with most severances. Martina, could you like to comment further? It depends a lot on what agency request.
Absolutely. So in this case, some of the conditions that have been requested regarding the 3-meter strip of frontage, that's to allow additional roadworks to take place in this location in the future, should the road need to be expanded or improved on. If additional development happens along this road, it may need to be upgraded to a different class of road, and we need that 3-meter strip to allow us to make those required changes if that's the case. The safe entrance issue is very standard. We make sure that every lot that is created has a safe entrance available to it. If there's not a safe entrance, we don't want someone building there and having cars coming in and out. The mitigation measures agreement is a request from ORCA, and that's to recognize the recommendations from the study that was prepared by Cambium. ORCA and the township are not requesting a rezoning in this case, so it's important that those conditions highlighted in the study are captured somewhere.
Thank you, Martina. Committee members, any questions or comments? Ed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 comments, and they'll take a little bit of time. They're both fairly significant with regard to the environmental impact study that was conducted. And my first comment, I have to say, I question whether an environmental impact study should have even been required on this property in the first place. And the reason I bring that up, I don't know, you've seen the map, and it's these 3 wetlands on the west side, unevaluated wetlands, that were the trigger for the county to have the impact study done. But I have to say, I've been doing air photo interpretation and wetland evaluation, certified. I maintain my certification since the 1980s. I don't practice, but I keep my certification up. And I don't know if you can see, can you see that air photo very well? And the 3, so that's the property. You see the Severance, Mr. Lloyd's property in red there, and the 3 alleged wetlands there. Everyone can hear me okay?
I hear you okay. It's hard to see it though.
Okay. So normally, when you have a wetland on the landscape, that gray area, by the way, that's hardwood. The air photos are taken in April before the leaves come out. Where there's a wetland, there's almost always a break in the vegetation. There's almost always a change in the tree structure, density, tree height. Somebody who has the experience can tell all of that from an air photo. And what I'm saying is that those 3 unevaluated wetlands, somebody at the county or ORCA or possibly Cambium, when they first were presented with it, really should have taken a look at those wetlands, alleged wetlands, and confirmed whether or not they are hydrological features. And I can tell you that unevaluated wetland mapping is notoriously bad on the landscape. They're unevaluated, meaning nobody's ever actually, gone out to see the site and confirm whether or not they're there. So let me tell you a little bit about my site visit on this application. So I started out on County Road 40, just looking in at what those 3 unevaluated wetlands are, and it's pretty clear. It's upland sugar bush. They're low areas within a sugar bush, but they're predominated by sugar maple and ironwood, which do not grow in wetlands. And by definition, those three areas, by definition, are not wetland as it's defined in that greater Golden Horseshoe Growth Plan. So that's the first issue, and it's fairly significant, not just to Mr. Lloyd, but to Douro-Dummer Township, because these unevaluated wetlands are now triggering environmental impact studies across the landscape, and that mapping, not very good. So that's one issue, and I hate to bring up the second, Mr. Lloyd, but second part of my evaluation and looking at your site, I do tree identification, woodlot management is my career. And first thing I did when I looked at the site, just taking note of the trees. I made a list of 11 species of trees, and I went back to the environmental impact study. And this is important. 10 of those 11 species were listed in the environmental impact study, and the species that wasn't was butternut. And the butternut is on the endangered species list, and it should have been caught by the environmental consultant on their site visit. And it was also listed in the Natural Heritage Information Center's 1 kilometer square within the area, so the consultant should have been aware of that too. But there's implications for that for Mr. Lloyd and the property and the application. And that is that butternuts, even though they appear to be declining and one of them is dead lying on the ground, but they're still protected under the Endangered Species Act, and their presence shouldn't hold or prevent development, but there is a process, and it's a regulated legal process under the Endangered Species Act that butternuts need to be assessed by a certified butternut health assessor, and then a permit required for their removal. So their presence on the property, and they're pretty obvious, and you can see it from the for sale sign, has implications for the mitigation that is recommended by the by the consultant. Had they been listed, and the consultant's report specifically stated that butternut was not identified on the site. So I really don't like bringing this up because I shouldn't have to. It should have been in the consultant's report. But it is significant, and I'm going to suggest that the application be deferred until somebody from the consulting firm or an agency goes out and confirms that I'm correct.
Okay, thank you, Ed, for your comments. Martina, you have your hand up. I've got a couple comments as well, but go ahead, Martina.
I just wanted to speak directly to Ed's comments before I forgot my thoughts. So if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair. I'll address them in order. So the EIS was required because it is the unevaluated wetlands get flagged as part of the provincial policy statement requirements and as part of the growth plan requirements. When you're within a certain boundary of those unevaluated wetlands, you are required to complete some type of environmental assessment to ground truth those wetlands and show that there's no impact on the proposed developments. Cambium could have reduced the size of their study or reduced the scope. That was an option that was given to them. They were to do a scoped EIS. So that would be number one. There's no other way for the township and the county to make sure the application is consistent with the PPS and the growth plan without some type of environmental study. So that's that point. I guess to the second one about the butternut, it is a shame that the butternut was not captured in the report, but in those mitigation measures agreement, in the mitigation measures that have been identified in the report, Number 9 specifically speaks to species at risk discoveries. And it says, though not identified in the field inventories, any subsequently identified species at risk discovered on the property will be left undisturbed as dictated by the Endangered Species Act 2007. If any SARS individuals are encountered, they should be photographed and allowed time to move out of the way. If they are animals, SARS observation should be reported to the Natural Heritage Information Center. So that is captured in the report and the recommendations that are part of the mitigation measures agreement. Oh, Mr. Chair, you're muted.
Thank you, Martina, for that information. The one comment, I think Martina did mention a couple items that I was planning to mention, but one of the things that we're faced with, the unevaluated wetlands, it's almost 50%, if not more, of the applications we look at are unevaluated. And I realize the province, we probably should be pushing the province to do more in that area to get these wetlands evaluated so that applicants or ratepayers are not having to pay for those consulting fees and so on. But we can't do that. If we were in charge for a day, we'd get a lot of things done in the province. But Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to, I don't know, challenge isn't maybe the right word, but I have to be clear about this, and I think the members of the committee need to be clear about this too. Up until recently, an unevaluated wetland would not, within 120 meters, would not trigger an environmental impact study. And
that is correct, but the regulations have all changed.
And the reason is because of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe area. But I struggled with this and looked very, very closely at that plan and the wording of it. And it's true that now an unevaluated wetland would trigger an EIS, but the definition of what is a wetland is included in that growth plan. And this is a very subtle nuance, and most will not understand it. But the definition of that wetland would have excluded those 3 areas because they're not predominated by hydrophytic plants. And I know we're getting into the weeds on this, but this is a very significant issue for Douro-Dummer planning and development in the future.
I think that's, unfortunately, I guess with Mr. Lloyd, the study has already been done and probably already paid for. And certainly you do raise some good points, Ed, that I think at another meeting or perhaps another item on the agenda, we should put a recommendation forward to a bunch of council to maybe consider moving in that direction to ask for support from the province to, that we don't having to deal with this on almost every application. So, okay, moving forward, Martina.
Something I just thought of as you're speaking about that is that the committee could ask staff to bring the county and ORCA staff to the table to explain the background on how EISs are requested and why they're requested and how they function as part of the greater planning scheme.
Okay, that would be a good idea.
So I need a resolution to be able to action that afterwards.
Okay, what's the pleasure of committee? Kim?
Yeah, well, I was just going to bring up, like Ed has suggested a deferral. I don't know if that's actually a motion from him. I don't know 1/10 of what Ed just explained, but I do realize that the butternut tree does bring in a lot of issues. And I know you caught one without a permit. I think the fine starts around 25,000. So it is a serious issue. So, and I understand what Martina is mentioning through the mitigation factors listed under section 9, but I'm almost wondering if, this should be deferred and just so Cambium is aware. I don't know, like Ed made some good points in that regard. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to try and make him suggest a deferral, but I don't know if that's where he was going with it or not.
Yeah, Mr. Lloyd, what's your thoughts on this? We are meeting again in March, March the 26th. We could defer this to a March meeting, or run the risk of voting on it today and perhaps it not be recommended. What's your thoughts on this?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I kept getting notices that I was muted.
Well, I think what's happening
Okay,
is because you're connected in two ways, I think we're getting feedback from one of your devices.
Oh, all right. Just a second here. I'm not too sure how this is going to work. Okay, can you? I'll just step away from the computer. Okay, as far as the butternut and various endangered species are concerned, I did bring this up to Cambion, and I think during various conversations with different people, because the neighboring property where they're building a house, I do believe they said something about butternut trees. I don't know whether they found one there or not. But anyway, when I talked to the site inspector from Cambion, he said to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, when I was talking to other people, maybe within the township or Peterborough, if one is found, then it's annotated and you work around it. You don't cut it down. You know, if you're going to build something, we'll build around it. Don't build over it. So this is something that would be applicable to anybody with a building permit. And when I asked about whether it would affect my application, I was assured that it wouldn't, because again, that would be part and parcel of a future application if one was being made by someone to build. So all I can say is, I brought this up before as far as that, endangered species, birds and things like that. And I was assured that it wasn't going to be a problem. So this is a surprise. I mean, if this is what it is, I don't know how it can be resolved, but if you want to defer it, I have no choice in the matter. I want to proceed with this. And if it's denied, well, then I have to go through the whole process once again with the ORCA study and various other things. So I'd like to proceed somehow that's, most expedient and less costly. Yeah, that, I think that's it. What I don't know if I've rambled or not, but anyway, like I said, in conclusion, I had brought this up and apparently it wasn't going to be a problem. So if it is, well, then we'll deal with it.
Mr. Chair, you're muted.
What?
Ed, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I had suggested, and I'm suggesting that we defer, and in fact, we may be doing the consultant and a future owner of that property a favor by deferring at this point, in addition to what Mr. Lloyd recognizes downsides to not. And but I want to mention, with regard to the presence of butternut, and I'm just one guy who's done tree identification for a long time, but I did my diligence and I sent pictures to a colleague, registered professional forester, and a butternut health assessor. That's a certified position, and confirmed that looks like butternut property. So it is an issue. It's a concern for if a future landowner wasn't made aware, they could find themselves on the wrong side of the law. But there is a process, and really the consultant, and if I'm right and my colleague's right, that that should have been captured. And just to address a point that Martina made, the presence of butternut would change the mitigation recommendations. Presence of butternut won't necessarily hold up a development, but there's a legal process for determining whether it's a quote category 1, 2, or 3 butternut based on its health, its state of decline, and but that is the key to whether a tree gets retained and you build around it and give it some space because they actually like their light, or whether it gets removed with a permit because it's in the way of the development, but then there's a compensation and a replacement. Usually means that for butternut that's removed under a permit, some number 6 or 10 get planted. So it very much changes, or the presence of it would change the recommendations of cambium. And I go back to the cambium report, it says that they were not identified. Butternut was not identified. I really think that deferring until you get some clarity, and Mr. Lloyd gets some clarity as well, is probably the best way to go. And I'll further add, it's like, if I'll make myself available to the consultant to send the pictures if you will, but
Okay. Now, is that a motion, Ed, to defer the application until a future meeting?
I will make that motion to defer.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Okay, Jim and Martina, you had a comment before we vote.
I had a comment before a motion was put on the table. My comment can't come forward anymore.
Well, we can withdraw the motion if it's relative.
It's the chair and the members' prerogative for that.
Okay. Ed and Jim, would you withdraw the motion so that Martina can comment? Jim is okay. Ed is okay. Go ahead, Martina. The motion is withdrawn.
Great. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. So with the butternut, I'm not disputing that the butternut is there or not there, but this committee is supposed to comment on Planning Act applications from the perspective of zoning matters and official plan matters for the township. We rely on ORCA and the MNRF to act as our environmental consultants and to look into species at risk situations. So one way that we can continue moving forward and the township can meet its obligations is that we could add an additional condition to this application, to our recommendation, that we could say that the issue regarding butternuts on this property be reviewed by cambium and the owner, and that an additional measure to the mitigation measures agreement be included regarding whatever is found with the butternut trees. So that's one way we can continue moving forward. We can meet our obligations, and the proper agencies and authorities can look after their parts of this process as well.
That's certainly a suggestion for our consideration. Where's the committee sitting on that comment? Are Jim and Ed, are you happy with that addition of that condition? Ed?
I believe that's a good suggestion and option, but it has to be worded carefully.
Okay. Then, okay, well, you'd like to, Martina, have you crafted it to the detail that we have a motion?
I have not, Mr. Chair, but if you give me a few moments, I can do that.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps this is a suggestion that the applicant and Cambium Inc. review the species at risk on the site, including identified butternut trees, and that the mitigation measures be amended to reflect the best practices for butternut health and protection based on the scoring of the butternut trees on site.
Okay, you're moving that, Ed?
No. I had a comment, I had a suggestion.
Sure, go ahead.
If the words better management practices were replaced with legal procedures or regulated procedures, I think that would work.
Okay, regulated procedures, would that be
Yes,
satisfactory
the
there?
it's the butternut regulations under the Endangered Species Act.
Sorry, Ed, just for clarification, where did you want me to insert that information in the motion?
I think it was replacing best management practices.
Okay, great. And can you give me that exact wording one more time, please?
Could you reread it?
Sure. That the applicant and Cambium Inc. review the species at risk on the site to include butternut trees, and that the mitigation measures be amended to reflect, and this is where I need to put that word in.
Yes. It's I had some concerns about previous wording there too, but we have to capture that if butternut is identified on the property, that the butternut regulations under the Endangered Species Act apply.
Appropriate butternuts.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a process that starts with having a certified butternut health assessor come out and categorize. These don't look healthy, but I'm not qualified to say those trees are unhealthy. You have to have that, and it's regulated under the Endangered Species Act. So,
So how about this? That the applicant and Cambium Inc. review the species at risk on site to include the identified butternut trees, that the mitigation measures agreement be amended to reflect the species at risk butternut tree regulations for butternut health and protection based on the butternut scores on site. And I can clean that up a little bit more with the grammar.
Is that okay, Ed?
I would recommend some minor tweaking of it, but maybe this is why we need to defer, or because it's important to get that wording right. And that what you just read sounds a little bit like they have to review to make sure that the butternut is there, confirm whether it is there or not, and if so, it's the regulations that apply. So it's just a minor tweak, I think, of what you have there.
Ken maybe has a magic answer here.
I don't know if it's magic. I'm thinking, and Martina, maybe instead of using reflect those mitigate and say adhere to, because it is a legal process.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that would make like say adhere to, or, strictly follow, whatever you want to, like, put the emphasis on the legal aspect. And I think that's where Ed's coming from.
Sure.
Like, it's not open for interpretation. It's definitely defined by legal regulations. So I think the word adhere to instead of reflect might work better for you.
Okay, Martina, do you want to repeat it one more time?
Sure. That the applicant and Cambium Inc. review the species at risk on site, including the identified butternut trees, and that the mitigation measures be amended to adhere to the butternut regulations for butternut health and protection based on the butternut scores held in the regulations. So we refer to the regulations multiple times there.
Go ahead, Ed.
It's the first sentence that needs to be tweaked. Cambium needs to review the species at risk on site with the view to the possibility the butternut is there.
So that is included in the first sentence.
Okay, as long as, yeah, we can't come from the position that we are 100% certain, although we're 99. It's their job to do that. So it's as long as we capture that.
Okay.
We're not assuming that it's present. There are butternut hybrids, and sometimes people make mistakes.
Okay, is there a mover for that motion? Ken? Seconder? Ed? We'll vote on it if there's any further comment. All in favor? Show of hands. Carried. All those opposed? Carried. Okay, Martina, thanks very much for that. You'll tidy up the wording on that and maybe even send a sample of it out to us before we adopt it at our next meeting, if that would be appropriate.
Sure.
Okay.
That would be good.
Okay. Now, I guess that is, yeah, Mr. Lloyd, that recommendation will be forwarded to Township Council. It'll be reviewed at Township Council probably our second next meeting. So,
Hello.
hopefully we can get moving forward with the and protect that butternut or butternut trees that are on your property there.
Hello.
Yes.
We can
Can you
hear
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was all of a sudden I was muted and I couldn't unmute. Okay, am I able to ask a question? I tried, but I couldn't get through.
Sure, go ahead. We voted on it already to move forward with it on the recommendation, but you go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I was trying to get your attention before you voted, but anyway, okay. All right. So, can somebody? Just a twofold question. All right. Whether or not there's butternut trees on the property, why does that affect the application? And second, what do I have to do so that to satisfy these requirements?
I would think since we've already voted on it, it's probably best that maybe later today that you contact Martina and we can give you next steps relative to that rather than.
Oh, all right.
I would think that, is that appropriate, Martina?
Absolutely. Graham, I have your contact information. So after this meeting, I will give you a shout.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry. I wanted to try and get you guys' attention before you voted. That's why, but it like this Zoom thing kept muting for me. I don't know how many times I've hit this *6 thing on my phone. I don't know why it keeps muting me, but okay. Well, Martina, huh?
You're connected twice on the system here, so it might have something to do with that.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. That's why I wanted to. I guess I'm too late to ask the question, but it wasn't for lack of trying.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll just have to accept the vote without any questions. All right. Well, thank you very much. And if I hear from Martina, that'd be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye. No, I think we're all set on that one now. Martina, we're all set for 5920 now.
Mm-hmm.
5920 is Marwood Payne, 459 7th Line Dummer. Could you go ahead and give us a highlight of this application, please?
Absolutely. And Mr. Payne is on the line as well. So just so the committee is aware of that. So this application is for lot 6 and 7, concession 7, known as 459 7th Line of Dummer. The roll number is 1522 020 020 002 0100. The purpose is the creation of one residential lot The official plan designation on both the severed and retained is rural. And as in the previous application, residential uses are permitted in the rural designation. A maximum of 2 consents to create lots may be permitted from a property within this designation, so long as it's existed 25 years prior to the date of application, and there's been no severances on this lot within the past 25 years. The zoning of the severed and the retained lot is currently rural. Both properties will need to be rezoned. The proposed lot will meet the area and frontage requirements for the residential use in the rural zone, but the severed lot will need to be rezoned to recognize the natural heritage features identified in the Natural Heritage Study, completed by Cambium, dated July 9th, 2020, and endorsed by the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority via their letter dated November 13th, 2020. The retained lot will meet the area but not the frontage requirements for an agricultural use in the rural zone, section 9.2.1. Therefore, it will need to be rezoned to recognize that deficient frontage. The proposed lot is located within 120 meters of key natural heritage and hydrological features, including an unevaluated wetland and a lake. The Natural Heritage Evaluation Study completed by Cambium and submitted with this application was to address the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The study was reviewed by ORCA, and their comments dated November 13th, 2020 are attached. A safe entrance is possible for this site. Staff are requesting a 3-meter strip of frontage be deeded to the township. A report from the Manager of Public Works was attached. The CBO states that that the property is low-lying, may be wet depending on existing grading in adjacent wetland. Recent development south of this property would suggest a conventional basement is unlikely unless fill is brought in, and he's also attached a report. A copy of the county's preliminary review was in your package. Discussions between the County of Peterborough and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority have resolved the issues with the application as summarized. In order to comply with provincial policy, which is the provincial policy statement and the growth plan, and to address any impacts on key hydrological features and natural heritage features, the natural heritage features within the severed parcel will need to be rezoned to prevent any development within the 120-meter buffer of the wetland. Further, to ensure that there are no negative impacts on the natural heritage features, all of the recommendations contained in Section 8 of the Natural Heritage Evaluation completed by Cambium are required to be followed. Following ORCA's review of this application, it's been determined that the proposed lot is not located within a floodplain. Test holes for septic systems have been completed and the results were satisfactory. All managers were consulted on this application. The recommendation to the committee is that it be recommended to council that severance application B5920 for Marwood Payne be approved, and if approved by the Peterborough County Land Division Committee, that the following conditions be imposed. A $1,250 cash and road parkland fee be paid to the municipality, that a 3-meter strip of frontage from the severed parcel be deeded to the township for road widening purposes, that a safe entrance be approved by the Manager of Public Works, that a mitigation measures agreement be entered into between the owner and the municipality and registered on title at the owner's expense, which would recognize the recommendations included in Section 8 of the Natural Heritage Evaluation prepared by Cambium, that the unevaluated wetland and the associated 30-meter buffer identified by Cambium on Figure 4 of the study on the severed lot be zoned environmental constraint in the township zoning bylaw to prevent any development. Oh, and sorry, finally, I didn't realize I had a third page, that a mitigation measures agreement be entered into. Oh, I listed that twice.
Yep.
My apologies.
No problem. Thank you, Martina. Mara, have you got any comments regarding this application? You're muted, Marwood. There you go.
Hi there. No, I have no comments right now.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is the committee ready for a resolution? Jim, go ahead.
Yes, I would move that we recommend to council to proceed as previously and as Martina has outlined with all of those conditions.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Ed? Okay, any further comments or questions? All in favor? Show of hands. Those against? Carried. Okay, Marwood, this resolution will be forwarded to council. It'll probably be presented to council second future meeting. And then that gets forwarded on to the county, who are the approving authority, and along with other agencies. So you're probably familiar with the process. It's quite an involved process anymore, but you're well on your way. So good luck with the project, and hopefully everything goes well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, next application is B6820, David and Leslie Clifford. I don't know whether there's any representative from Dave on the line. I don't see any.
Mr. Chair, Dave and Leslie were not able to attend the meeting, but they have provided me some comments that I can read after my report.
Sure. If you could give us highlights, please.
Absolutely. So this is a application to create one residential lot at Lot 5, Concession 2, 801 Webster Road. The roll number is 1522-020-001-01500. The official plan designation on both the severed and retained is rural. As in previous applications, residential uses are permitted in this designation, provided they don't have any conflict with farm operations. Maximum of 2 consents to create lots is permitted, as long as the lot has existed for 25 years prior to the date of application. There's been 1 severance within the past 25 years, which allows them 1 additional application. The zoning of the severed and retained is both rural. The severed lot will require a rezoning. The severed lot will meet the area and frontage requirements of the residential use within the rural zone, but we'll go on to talk about why the environmental factors require a rezoning. The retained lot will meet the area and frontage requirements for an agricultural use in the rural zone. The severance proposal appears to be in conformity with the PPS. The proposed lot is located within 120 meters of key natural heritage and hydrological features, including unevaluated wetlands, watercourses, fish, wildlife, and significant wildlife habitat, an area of natural scientific interest, woodlands, and habitat for significant wildlife. An environmental impact study was completed by Cambium, dated July 2020, and submitted with this application. The Autonomy Region Conservation Authority has now completed their review and submitted comments, which are attached in a letter dated January 21st, 2021. A safe entrance is possible and a culvert will be required. Staff are also requesting a 3-meter strip of frontage be deeded to the township. A report from the chief building official is attached. A copy of the county's preliminary review is attached. Discussions, as in the previous applications between the Conservation Authority and the county, have resolved most of the issues with the application. In order to comply with provincial policy, the provincial policy statement and the growth plan, and to address any impacts on hydrological features and natural heritage features, ORCA has made a number of recommendations. The proposed lot crosses through a 30-meter vegetative protective zone associated with the nearby wetland. Therefore, the proposed lot does not conform to the growth plan. To achieve conformity, ORCA has suggested the following recommendations be applied to this application, so there is no development within the 30-meter vegetative protective zone. A, rezone the illustrated 30-meter VPZ to environmental constraint in the township zoning bylaw to prohibit construction and site alteration. B, to register the EIS recommendations as outlined in Section 9 as mitigation measures agreement, as mitigation measures. Development and site alteration, such as construction and site occupancy of the property will be adhered to. C, the proposed lot is within the Drumlin Complex ANSI. To address a provincial policy statement 2.1.5E, the construction site grading should adhere to MNRF guidelines and recommendation number 3 of the EIS. and consider the existing topography of the lot and the building and structures should be designed to work within the topography, meaning it should be multi-level or water out features. All department managers have been circulated on this application. It's recommended to the committee that they recommend the application to council for Dave and Leslie Clifford. And if approved by the Peterborough County Land Division Committee, that the following conditions be imposed. That a $1,250 cash and road parkland fee be paid to the municipality. That a rezoning of the severed lot be obtained to the satisfaction of the municipality to illustrate the 30-meter VPZ zone and the environmental constraint in the township's zoning bylaw to prohibit construction and site alteration. That a 3-meter strip of frontage from the severed lot be deeded to the township for road widening purposes. That a safe entrance be approved by the manager of public works, and that a mitigation measures agreement be entered into between the applicant and the township to recognize the recommendations in the natural heritage study that was submitted. As stated before, I do have some comments for Dave. I'll read them verbatim. They were sent to me on February 23rd, 2021. Hi, Martina. I'm unable to attend on Friday, but would like the committee to proceed with a review of my application. I want to proceed with my application in its present format. I will not be changing the configuration. I'm okay with the conditions that have so far, with the exception of the registration of the recommendations on the title of the lot. I've been dialoguing with Matt at Orca and his comments are below. In regards to the registration, he is leaving that decision to the township. I feel it's overkill and redundant to have it registered on title, as the EIS and all the recommendations are on file with the township whenever someone applies for a building permit. The environmental conditions will be dealt with through the rezoning of the environmental area. And then he asked if there was comments from the public on his application, which there have not been.
Okay, thank you, Martina. Okay, the applicant, there's no representation here. Comments, questions? Okay, the one comment, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I thought there was some redundancy too. I think it was well.
A lot of complexities with, and ANSI, I guess that's significant. ANSI scientific structure on the property or near the property. I guess when the applicant's own consultant is recommending a mitigation plan, I guess I don't know enough about the planning process to really say yay or nay to that. That's my only comment. I don't know, Martina, have you got any comments relative to that?
So it is the committee's ability to recommend or not recommend to council that the mitigation measures agreement be registered on title. If the committee feels that all of the recommendations within the report can be dealt with through a building permit process or through ORCA permits, it would be your prerogative to leave that off. Staff are recommending it, but that's for you to debate and decide.
Ken.
Well, just to clarify something that Mr. Clifford brought up in his letter, like, are we overkilling some of these items? Like, if I just wanted to ask, if a building permit was applied for, does the building, like, would the chief building official, does he go into the property? Like, would he find this EIS as part of his, I guess, due diligence prior to issuing the building permit? Because if that's the case, then maybe Mr. Clifford does make a point that it gets, I think the key point is it gets captured before any building permit is issued. So to register it on title and that, is that an overkill procedure? And I'm just asking the question. Like, I think Ed sort of brought up a similar point, like, you know, is it a bit of overkill? That's all I'm asking.
Martina?
All of these documents will live in the permanent record of the file, so they would be seen when a building permit is registered for, because we pulled the file at that time.
Martina, is it possible to add a further condition if we did agree to remove that mitigation requirement on title, that we have a condition to highlight that building, the CBO does recognize that there are special conditions that have to be met on this before a building permit is provided?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we cannot. The condition has to be able to be fulfilled within a 1-year time frame of the decision of the Land Division Committee, and that is not a condition that can be fulfilled within that time frame.
Okay. Okay, Jim.
Yes, as a property owner who has a condition on title that was created when I severed property. There's no condition on the severed portion, but there is now a condition on the retained portion. It's very legitimate that it be registered on title, because long before anyone chooses to build something and apply for a building permit, they might want to buy that property from me. And it should be clear to their legal counsel from the moment they do the search that there's a condition. So I think putting it on title is just fine. If it's not if it's a problem when you build, it's probably a problem when you buy. So why not be transparent?
Okay. Okay, what's the pleasure of any further comments? Ready for a resolution?
And with that comment made, I would move to proceed to recommend to our council, as Martina has outlined, with the conditions as stated.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Is there a seconder? Wendy? Any comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor, please show your hand. Okay, those opposed? It's carried. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's it as far as the meeting is concerned. We've got our next meeting scheduled for March the 26th. You probably don't know yet whether we've got items on that meeting. We probably will as we get closer to spring.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, we do have at least one severance application and at least one minor variance.
Okay. And also, I guess we should have a resolution to maybe for Martina to move forward with a meeting or with the county planning staff and perhaps ORCA representative to talk about wetlands, as talked about earlier. Ed made some good points there that I think we'd all like clarity on. Is there other parties that should come to that meeting as well, besides those two parties? I would suggest maybe council members and members of this committee, if that makes sense.
Perhaps we can have a special joint meeting between the planning committee and council to discuss these issues.
On a separate day or something like that.
That's right.
Okay. Is that Ed? Go ahead.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarity, the subject there, I think, is it's not limited to wetlands, but it's the implications of the growth plan for the greater Golden Horseshoe, because we're now, the planning departments are treating unevaluated wetlands like provincially significant wetlands in those areas of Douro-Dummer, which fall under the green plan, which is most of it. So it's a fairly significant change.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Ed, because there's been resolutions, I'm not sure at our council or I'm sure at county council, that we shouldn't even be in the Golden Horseshoe growth plan because of all kinds of reasons. And I know our planning department at Peterborough County made a petition there. They had all kinds of jargon as to why we shouldn't be in it, and it didn't go anywhere. So,
Township Council followed that same route as well.
right. But I think we can talk further about it at a meeting. So thanks very much for this morning's meeting. We got,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't have a mover or a seconder for that resolution.
okay, Wendy, was that a move? Were you moving that motion, Wendy?
No, I wasn't. Actually, I just wanted to thank Ed for bringing that up and for using his knowledge, because I don't know anything about trees. So I think we'd like to thank Ed for bringing that up and using his knowledge, bringing it forward to the committee.
Okay, moving that motion to have a meeting. Jim? And who's going to
I do.
second? Who's going to second that motion? Ed? And any further comments? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Okay, I think that's it. Martina, is there anything else? Ken, go ahead.
It just through the chair. I didn't know if we could give Martina like a verbal authorization to attach our signatures to the documents today instead of having to email.
Sure, that would be fine with me. You're referring to the Committee of Adjustment decisions, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm giving you my permission for my electronic signature.
Everyone else okay with that?
Yes.
Wendy is okay?
I only attended one half of the meetings, so, use my signature accordingly.
Okay.
Very good.
What about you, Ed?
Mhm.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, yes.
You don't, Martina, you don't have any blank checks, do you?
No, sadly, I don't.
Okay, good. Okay, well, thanks very much, people. Next meeting is March the 26th. A motion to adjourn, please. Ed
Oh, sure.
and Ken, did you have a further comment, Ed?
Just wanted to make sure that the draft wording with regard to the Lloyd condition is be circulated among us.
Sure.
Yeah, that was part of my notes from earlier.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the adjournment? It's carried. Okay, thanks very much, folks.
I do have a closing comment, and that is that looking at the agendas for both meetings, I noted that this was a dumber day. And I think we may have proved that. Every application ahead of us that came before us today was a dumber township. So have a dumber day.
Okay. Well, have a good weekend, folks.
You too.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Martina, with the complexities
Oh,
today.
happy to do it.
That was a challenge.
Thanks.
Thank you.